Hi, Jordan. It's great to meet you, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, sir.
Before we dive in, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you found carnivore? How did it all started for you?
Oh, that is a very loaded question. You weren't kidding. But my name's Jordan, and I live in Oklahoma in the United States. And I have been doing carnivore for nearly 3 years. My carniversary is actually on the 27th of this month. Uh, and it was a long road to get me to the moment of carnivore because I had spent my entire life. I'm from from the southern part of the United States, where, as I've said in previous conversations, that everything was deep fried. You could deep fry a flip flop, and we'd eat it here in the South. And so it's just something that I was accustomed to. And it was either deep fried or smothered in gravy. And so it was just a way of life for me. And the way that I grew up, I had always thought that I was big boned and that's the way it was supposed to be. All the other guys in my family are big boned, so why wouldn't I be? And the as I started to look back a little bit, as even in my younger years, of hey, when I look at pictures of mom and dad, they were tiny because my dad was about your size when I was born, and it was like maybe this isn't how I'm supposed to be, and this isn't the weight I'm supposed to be, because I can think back any point in my life and I was a larger child. Specifically in third grade was when I just really noticed, hey, you're different than everyone else. And that's never been a problem for me. I thought I was big. And graduating high school in the high 200s, I was just a big dude. And as I got into college, going into 300s, and getting meeting meeting my now wife, I had gained even more weight into that. And then, just to accelerate some of that weight loss, 6 months into my marriage, my mom passed away. She died of kidney failure, and it was that was a huge deal for me because I remember back when I was 18 and I wanted to go do the paperwork to donate my kidney for her because I knew that she was very sick. And at that point in time, I knew that I had healthy kidneys and there was no issues. But I was actually rejected from even turning in the paperwork because of the BMI that I was writing down on my application. And so, just compounding all of those things of losing my mom, remembering the time that I wasn't able to help give a kidney to her, I just kept gaining weight and gaining weight, and actually got to 399.1 pounds. And I remember that time that I weighed myself, and I actually have a picture of that time on that scale. I told myself, Jordan, you will never hit 400. And I may have in those weeks or days hit that 400, but I don't know that I ever saw that on the scale. I know I didn't, because I would remember that. And so I told myself, Jordan, you will never hit 400. You have to make some changes. And so I would try to do these yo-yo diets, and I mean, being a big guy, you live in the yo-yo diet world. You would try the juice fast. I have some crazy stories from juice fasting. You would try the HCG hormones uh, drops, and eat 2 bites a day. You would try all these different things. And boy, am I glad that I started carnivore before Ozempic came out. And I have no judgment for those who are on it. But for me, I'm thankful that I was able to control things before I could have the option of that. Uh, but I would drop weight, gain it back, drop weight, gain it back. And then I started having these awful, awful health issues. I I can say just started, but they really started to catch up with me because I was hitting my late 20s into early 30s. I had high blood pressure. I had awful cholesterol, and not the good cholesterol. I had awful, awful anxiety, and I'll admit I'm a pretty high strung person. That's just who I am. But at the same time, there was a level of anxiety especially after my mom passed, that it would literally attack me. And I would have those anxiety attacks where I would just close off and I couldn't function. And I would have these awful, awful gout flare ups. They came out of nowhere. And I remember my wife and I, we went on a trip to Vegas back in October of 2022. And I had one of my major episodes because I mean, if you ever go to Vegas, if you want to get around, you're walking because we're boring people. They weren't getting our money from gambling or drinking. We just wanted to go sightseeing. And so we walked 8 to 10 miles a day, even at my high 300s weight. And I had an awful, awful gout flare up so bad on that last night that my wife had to wheelchair me through the airport. That was so humiliating to have my wife be the one to push me through the airport and load the plane first. I mean, that part was nice getting to be on the plane first, but it was just so embarrassing to even have to do that. And I was having these awful digestive issues. I'm not being dramatic when I say this, that there was not a single time in my life that I can remember before carnivore that I had a solid stool. Every bit of it would be loose. The moment I would finish taking my last bite of food, I would have to run and go to the bathroom. And that was probably 5 or 6 times a day. And it was something that I thought was normal just because I would always have to go to the bathroom. And then into uh, late 2021 was when it started turning from just bathroom to true gastric issues, where I was having the diverticuli pockets. I would have diverticulosis, which would mean stuff would get trapped in those pockets within your intestines, and then I would get diverticulitis. And the diverticulitis is when it turns into an infection. And I can remember we were going to Texas for a trip, and we had to stop to the ER just because I was hunching over and crippling pain from, I could feel it in my intestines. And they let me know of, hey, you need to get this checked out when you get home. And they're like, Jordan, if this doesn't stop, we're going to have to remove this portion of the colon, because every time we do a scan, this is where you have those pockets that are getting infected. Yes, right now we can treat them with medication, but there will probably come a time that we can't do that anymore. And so at that time, I was 31, 32, and realizing that I was going to have to potentially remove a piece of my colon just because of the gastric issues. And not a single time in my head did I think it's because of the way I was eating. It was because of everything that people put into foods, and not thinking the food that I was putting into my body. And I had awful sleep apnea. I really started to pay attention to things in 2019 when I had my first son. And my wife told me to go get a sleep study. And the sleep study is typically like 4 hours off the sleep apnea machine and 4 hours on, just to see how your body adjusts to it. Within an hour, they had come and put me on the machine, because I think a severe case was 14 times a minute that you would stop breathing, and I was doing it like 40 times a minute. They said it was one of the most severe cases they had seen. And so I had all these different things that just kept stacking up. And at the end of 2022, I went to the doctor for one more gastric issue, and they're like, "Hey, you need to go ahead and get a colonoscopy. We're gonna look at all the digestive tract, and we just want to see what's going on." And so I I planned that for January 27th of 2023. And I had to fast for that, because you have to clear yourself out before you go for a colonoscopy. And when I woke up from the colonoscopy, they said, "Hey, actually, your colon looks just fine. Everything in there looks fine. Yes, we see those pockets, but everything looks fine." And months leading up to this colonoscopy, I had watched hours and hours of carnivore. And I said, if everything's fine, if this isn't something wrong with you, because in my head, I thought I had to have something wrong with me because it couldn't be me just eating what everyone else does. Why am I feeling all this different stuff? Why am I gaining weight? Because I didn't feel like I gorged myself than the person who it was 100 pounds and could eat anything they want. I didn't feel like I was doing anything different than they were doing. And I woke up in that colonoscopy and they said everything was fine. And so that day, January 27th of 2023, everything changed for me. And ever since then, I have lived the carnivore lifestyle. I can't say that I haven't failed. I can't say that I didn't fail day one because that on that day one, my weakness is chips and salsa. And on that day one, we went to a Mexican restaurant, which was my very first mistake. And I started to eat chips and salsa. And just by eating probably 5 or 10 chips, the next day I had a mild case of gout. And that was, I felt like that was just a a way of saying, "Hey, Jordan, you said you're going to start carnivore, so go ahead and do it." And so on day one, I had to do a reset. And so ever since then, it's just been finding my rhythm, finding the way I know that I can eat, doing because people want to sit there and attack the carnivore lifestyle. But if you really look at it, all you're doing is doing an elimination diet. You're taking away all these different things that were causing me issues before and saying, "Hey, can I manage it? Can what is it doing to my intestines? How is it uh, affecting my bowel movements and everything?" And within a couple weeks, I finally started to understand what a solid stool was. I went from going 5 to 6 times a day to maybe once or twice a week, and that was insane because I was like, "What? What's going on?" Because I've never had a time in my life that I would have that, but now I'm not to be crass here, but there was logs at this point, and it's like, is this what everyone's supposed to have about movement like? And so it has been it's been a journey learning how to use the bathroom again, or not using the bathroom, I guess. And I've been able to get off of my blood pressure medicine, off my cholesterol medicine, because I was on two different blood pressure medicines. I was able to get off that cholesterol medicine. I was able to get off the gout pills because I wasn't eating carbs. I wasn't throwing myself into those high uric acid. There's a lot more science behind gout that we could sit there and argue about, but I wasn't having those gout flare-ups anymore. The sleep apnea, that one was pretty crazy because about 6 months into the carnivore, we went on a trip and I forgot to put on my machine one night. And I woke up the next day and I was rested, which is insane because previously, if I wasn't on a sleep apnea machine, there was times that I would literally fall asleep and stop and go traffic. And so I knew it was detrimental to my health to make sure that I had that sleep apnea machine because I felt like a new man once I got on that machine. But 6 months into carnivore, I fell asleep at that machine, and I woke up the next day and I felt rested. And it was like, whoa, that this shouldn't be happening because if I missed one single night on that machine back when it was old, three 370-pound Jordan, and that was actually the weight that I started at. I had gotten up to 399, and I stopped sodas and worked out a little bit and got down to 370 at that January 27th of 2023. Uh, but I realized that it was helping me even with the swelling in my tongue, the inflammation in my neck, the weight in my chest, that a couple of times I'd have my wife just pay attention while I was sleeping. I'm taking off the machine. Am I snoring? Because people would think I was a freight train before. And am I snoring? Am I stopping breathing? None of that. And so over time and through direction, I've been able to get off of my sleep apnea machine. And so there was 5 medications that I lived on, my sleep apnea machine, all of that is gone. And it has just felt like a whole new life. And yeah, we can sit there and talk about the icing on the cake of losing 150 pounds over all of this journey. But the biggest thing for me is knowing that I don't have to live on medication that I feel like a new man and I get to enjoy this life. People would say that I live a life of restriction, but the 370-pound Jordan and the 399-pound Jordan, that was a life of restriction because I couldn't even get off the couch without huffing and puffing. I couldn't get on the floor to play with my kids. But now I get to live this new life. And what's funny is people, a few months in, they realized how fast I was dropping the weight because I'd lost 100 pounds within that first year. It was insane the way the weight was dropping off. And people were like, "Are you okay? What are you sure you're doing what you need to do?" But I'm like, "Where were you when I was shoveling donuts down my throat? When I couldn't even get off the couch? When I would have to call in because I didn't feel well enough to go do this event with you guys? Where were you then?" But now they see that this is good for me. This is a healthy thing that's brought me out. And I've been able to coach some of those people who even thought that I was crazy. I've been able to coach them to change some lifestyle habits. And if anything, not if not carnivore, eating whole foods and doing more keto or ketovore, just to know what they're taking in rather than just trusting a society that benefits from you being unwell. And it's just been such a cool, crazy long road to get me to here where I get to share my story now. I get to show these people that I won't sit there and act like I'm a medical doctor and say this is for everyone. But for the people that I've helped walk through this same journey that I've been on, it's done nothing but help them. But we're the crazy ones. And it's just been very cool to see the the health benefits, the weight loss, but most of all the life that I've gotten back that I thought that was gone because I really felt like it was life and death for me at that point. I was 33 and having a colonoscopy. That's not something you're supposed to do until your 50s and 60s, but it was something that I was having to do in my 30s. And so there were some real changes that needed to happen. And it was meat. That's all it was. And yeah, I fasted, I worked out, but those were benefits that came from the energy of me putting away all of these carb rich foods and being satiated by just meat and some dairy and butter. And it's just crazy to see how my life truly has changed just by taking away all the junk. So sorry if that's a very long-winded answer, but that's how I got to where I am today.
Jordan, your story is really inspiring. The way you put them together, I just like listening to you. You know,
Tell that to my
after
kids.
living with so many things, yeah, after living with so many health issues for more than decades,
Yeah.
you had the stool problem since you were young, since childhood, right? And reaching
Yes.
nearly 400 pounds. You suffer from sleep apnea. Actually, I wanted to know like about the sleep apnea. How long were you using the machine for?
From 2019 to 2023. So 4 years.
2019. So okay, 4 years. I see. Yeah. So that one, I feel like it's quite long, many years, and
Yeah.
you know, and then completely, and you had the gout flare ups also. So basically completely turning around your health. After
I would have given away
through.
everything in my life to have gotten rid of the gout because the gout, that was the most, that felt like it was taking my life away because I couldn't even sit there without feeling like there were just fire in my joints. And so that alone, just by curing that alone, man, I would have given it all away. Sorry.
No, that is awesome. Because now you're carnivore, and like you said,
Mhm.
you don't feel restricted anymore. Like back then, you
No.
couldn't even get off the couch, and you can't even play with your kids. And now, also the good thing, beyond physical journey, was that you're living medication free. Yeah, so
Yeah.
off cholesterol medicine, off high blood pressure medicine. Yeah, that is really awesome. I'm actually curious to ask, what is your motivation? before you were carnivore. I guess in life in general, because you talked about your when your mom passed away, and then also
Yeah.
this thing you talked about in the airport where your wife is pushing you into yeah, it was all embarrassing, things like
Talk
that, and
about
the
questioning your
stool issue.
manhood.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just really curious what your motivation before even
Yeah.
carnivore.
Yeah. So my biggest motivation, I would say number one is my wife, just because she is my anchor in life. She is my world. And through her I was able to be blessed with three kids. And yes, there is a health aspect that I take charge of through my faith and to take care of myself. But also I know that I have to be a husband and I have to be a father. And if I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not being the man that I need to be internally and externally, then why did I sign up for this? Why did I get married? Why did I have kids if I'm not willing to fight for them? And that means even in my health, because we say till death do us part, or sickness and health, but the sickness that I was bringing was myself. Like, it was what I was doing to myself. The anxiety attacks, the fits of anger, all of these different things that were internal as well as external, that I wasn't bringing the best that I could be as a husband or a father. And I won't sit here and say that I'm perfect now, but I'm able to regulate my emotions. I'm able to show true joy when I'm with my family, and I'm a blessed man. I would say that my life is perfect with my wife and kids. I mean, not that we are, but I am 100% content with them. But to see what I used to be, I don't know if I was fighting for anything other than the next cheeseburger, sadly. And then jumping back to my mom, there may come a day where my kidneys won't work anymore. And that's hard because, like, I think of the life that I had to fight through with my mom, because she was diagnosed when I was a kid. Sorry, that pulled a string. And trying to manage what those feelings were, and trying to understand that as a child. I want to know that if that ever happens to me, that my kids will know that I've done everything possible to fight for my health, that I am a healthy man, that it was just the genetics that I received, or the Lord's will for me to be taken home. But I want them to know it's not because I gave in and just threw my body to the wind. And I'm not saying that's what my mom did, but she wasn't the most healthy person. I would give anything to go back uh, when I was 12 years old and to have the ideas of carnivore. Because when my mom passed, she passed probably living off of 20 medications. And yes, it was kidney failure that led into those 20 medications, but it was the opioids, all of the pain pills, the nerve medicines. That's what essentially shut her body down. And I want to know, and that's not to say that I may not ever end up there, but I want to know that I'm doing all I can. We live in a society that says you go Google and get your symptoms, or you go to the doctor and let them tell you what's going on, instead of listening to what's going on inside of you. You know your experiences, you know the food you eat, you know what you're putting in. So listen to what is happening, rather than just being so consumed with the next meal and the next event that you aren't able to pay attention to how you feel, how your body's responding to that food. And I've been able to see that if I'm controlling what I eat by living off of beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, and some dairy. I'm wearing a hat that says "full of cheese and regret," but if I am truly being conscientious of what I'm putting in my body, I can be conscientious to how I'm being affected, to where I'm conscientious of how I'm reacting to my family and how I'm living out, to where I can be the best husband, the best father, and the best man out in the world. If that answers your question.
Nice, wonderful. Yeah, I really like how you answer the question. It's really awesome, fascinating. um, yeah, I actually wanted to go back to the sleep apnea
Uh-huh.
health issue you had. So, did the machine help at all? Like during those 4 years when you were sleeping, was it like relying on the machine like help you every night, or maybe you still feel exhausted like when you wake up? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
So, to be quite honest, 1 week on that machine, I felt like a new man. It it's not the most sexiest machine. You have a tube hooked up to your nose, so it's not, "Hey, sweetie, how you doing?" It's none of that. But I was able at that point in time, the 390 something pound Jordan, I was able to find a new lease on life. But at the same time, I was 100% dependent on that machine to get a good night's sleep. Not just resting on my pillow and getting a good night's sleep. I had to be hooked up with distilled water. It was a process to wash it, to clean it, make sure I wasn't getting infected, and it was a constant process that I had to maintain to live on it. That's why I say as a life and death, because I felt like it was a life support. It was being attached to a sleep apnea machine rather than just getting to go lay in bed and be next to my wife. It was, hey, my first companion is that machine, making sure I'm getting the air I need to where I'm not stopping and breathing. Because my blood pressure came because I think I was getting onto a third statin at that point in time, but I was able to go down to just two blood pressure medicines when I got on that machine. That
That's
previously it was
awesome.
awful. It was.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So the changes I know you talked about earlier, like being on um, 6 months on carnivore, and then sleep apnea getting better. Was it something you noticed like gradually? Also, your mood changing? Was that something happened like quickly, or yeah?
It was honestly my wife that would be the one to tell me the cues, because when you're living it, it's hard to see those immediate reactions. Even dropping weight like I was, that first month I was obsessive over it. So I kept a spreadsheet, but after that, I made myself not look at it except once a week. But it was something that she would just notice of, hey, Jordan, you're looking pretty excited about life now rather than just dragging yourself. And again, I had no complaints. I have a good life. It was just I felt awful all the time. One thing that I didn't mention was all the time I would have eczema all over my fingers. And that's just when you're having it looked like little blisters all over my hands, and that I would have dry spots everywhere. And that alone just made me so irritable all the time. And getting on carnivore, it's crazy. Like there are times that I may not be eating enough fat, or the air's just super dry that my skin might be a little dry. But outside of that, like I would need to show you some pictures, but I feel like I'm living in a whole new skin on my face, which I am living a new skin. You shed it, but I feel like I just have a whole new body of getting to go out, and I have to be careful because I've hurt myself already of thinking that I'm 20 again rather than 36. But it's been her telling me, and it's hard to not have uh what's it called? I can't think of the word right now, where imposter syndrome, where I still look at myself. I have to really just catch myself of, hey, Jordan, you're not that 390 or even 370 self anymore. But it was me. What it felt like was throwing away those 3X and 4X shirts of, hey, that's the old Jordan. You're not going back, because there was times that I could have a 2X all the way to 4X in my closet because of the weight fluctuation of the yo-yo dieting. But it was finally, if, hey, you're putting those away, you're giving those away, you're throwing them in the trash, you're no longer going to do it. And actually, oh, it's right here. I actually have the shirt that I take my anniversary picture with, and I can't even get it fully into the frame of how huge it is. I feel like it just engulfs me now. But and I even have the pants here with me of that's your old self. Shed yourself of that because you're not going back to it. And as I said, I've eaten a little bit too much cheese lately, so I've gained a few pounds back, but it's still a way of that I don't feel disgusted with myself. And you're not an imposter. You've actually done this. People thought that I was living on Ozempic and all these, they thought I had gastric bypass. And I don't judge anyone has that medical necessity of that. But for me, it wasn't a medical necessity. It was a necessity for me to change habits and to get back to a healthy way. And I know you asked about how I noticed things, but it was all these things that led up to, hey, take control back. There's not a lot that we have control of in this world, but I do have control of what I eat. And by controlling that, I've been able to control my mental health, my emotional health. It was weird that thought I was turning into a crotchety old man, and I probably am a little bit of a crotchety old man, but I'd been able to find that joy again because the one thing that I remember is people would always just comment on how I smiled when I was a kid. And I get to have that again. This isn't some manufactured smile. This is true joy of getting to resonate out of me of a life that I can enjoy now. I can actually buy clothes at the store. I don't know the last time in my adulthood that I could have gone to a store. It would be the big and tall. I mean, there are big and tall areas, but you have to go to a very specific section of the store. Your clothes are limited, and every other big person's wearing that. But now I can wear whatever I want. It's able to see the small things that the normal people, there's no normalcy, but what normal people would get to go do, I was able to go do. I wasn't a smelly big man. And that's not to dog anyone who's large and has an odor, but I know as that large man, there was an odor emitting from me, and I refused to be the smelly fat guy. And so I would shower 2 or 3 times a day. There was actually a point when I was remodeling our last house that I got an infection from being too clean, if you could believe that. There's bacteria that is healthy bacteria, but I would shower so much that from the moisture and the loss of the correct bacteria in my belly button exploded. If that even makes sense. I walked out one morning. I was like, man, there's some really. I'm pushing down here, but there was some pressure on my belly button, and I push on it, and some deep orange ooze comes out of it, and I was terrified because I thought I had exploded myself. I was like, you did it. You finally got too big, and now you're exploding. But I contacted the doctor, and they let me know that it was just an infection from being too clean, and so it was weird. I had gotten infected by being too clean, and I'm sure I'm medically saying that wrong, but I just refused to be that smelly fat guy. And now I, I have some loose skin that I do have to maintain and it will eventually take care of. But I've been able to see that there's a lot less odor when I am strict, the what people call the lion diet of just ruminant meat, salt, and water. I don't, I'd still do, but I wouldn't have to brush my teeth. I wouldn't have to shower every day. I wouldn't have stinky shoes all the time. And it was crazy because I realized that that odor was coming from all of these things that are leaking out of my body that I was putting in, not just that people stink. It's weird to think that I wouldn't even need to brush my teeth if I truly stayed strict lion diet. And so it's just small things that compound on one another to say, hey, this is worth doing rather than what I used to be, which you could say, oh, Jordan, you had the world before. Yeah, but I was chained to a couch. I was chained to a sleep apnea machine. I was chained to medications to even make it through the day. And now I can do what I want. And I get to eat ribeyes all the time. Who can be upset about that?
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, the
Sorry,
ribeye.
I know I'm rambling.
Um, no, that's okay. It's all good. Um, I know you mentioned this earlier. You mentioned a couple of things actually. Before going carnivore, what was your favorite food? Because I know you mentioned growing up, deep fried foods, and then
Yeah,
also chips and salsa. What is your favorite food before you were
chips and
carnivore?
salsa. I consider chips and salsa a Mexican restaurant. I look at their chips and salsa before I even worry about the food. But I would say either that or some Chinese food. I love, love, love Chinese food. And people would say American Chinese food, but I just, I would gorge myself on uh, different. Uh, my favorite is chicken with garlic sauce. Like my mouth waters even just thinking about it. And I haven't had it in years just because of the amounts of sugar that was in it. But I I loved the Chinese buffets. I loved pizza. I mean, if you name it, I ate it. The only things that I wouldn't eat in life are green olives because I just couldn't handle it. But it it was more of what what am I eating that I had to figure out because I loved all these things, but to this day, even after researching it, I can't tell you what's in some of that stuff. And that's what's embarrassing. My most favorite candy is a cherry pull and pill Twizzler. And now I cringe at the fact of putting any kind of red dye into my body. Because with with the different things that I lived through, I know that red dye affects me. And it affects everyone because it's a petroleum product. But it is just crazy that all these things that I just would obsess over. And I do have to be careful because there's times I'll give myself an excuse for chips and salsa and my body reminds me of it within just a few hours of, hey, you can't go back to that. And I do eat some salsa on fajitas every now and then just because, but not enough to say that I've changed eating habits or I've gone more ketovore. It's just every now and then I will indulge. It's insane that the fact that by me putting a little salsa on something is considered indulge when it would be two pints of salsa before and two bags of chips or going back to get a pint of ice cream. But now indulging is just having very little amounts of vegetables every now and then.
Nice. Um, Looking back at the start of your journey, were there any mistakes you made, and how did you learn from them?
Well, I had mentioned before the story of having Mexican food that first day. Sadly, most of the stories involve Mexican food just because that's where I love to enjoy food, which we still eat fajitas every single Friday, but now it's just skirt steak that I grill and we enjoy it. But I I have to be careful to not go back to that and just stick to it because one thing that it and if we're just gonna have truly brutally honest time, what I have to be careful now with is popcorn because we make homemade popcorn and I had avoided it for years. But lately I would just eat a couple bites here or there. And I learned that if I even look at popcorn, I gain weight. But when you look at what corn is made of, especially the genetically modified corn that is everywhere now, that's pure sugar. Your body, like it's not sugar literally, but your body takes those carbs and processes them as sugar. And I would feel awful. And so I still to this day, if we start making popcorn, it's like, Jordan, let your family, let your kids enjoy this, but you don't need to enjoy it. And even then, I've been able to coach my wife and bring her away from eating those foods. And she's done more of a modified ketovore, just a few vegetables here or there and mostly meat. And just trying to help coach my family of changing their eating habits because my cheats can turn into their cheats and their cheats can turn into my cheats. And so it's not just it's not forcing this on my family, but showing them of, hey, look how better we can feel when we do this. And it's weird that I'm about to come up on 3 years of not having a single bite of raw sugar or bread or any of that I couldn't have gone probably a day without having. And now I'm at the 3 year carnivore of that.
Wow, congratulations! Almost 3 years now. Wow. Speaking about your, speaking about your family, how are their diet like? Are they pretty much in sync with your diet, or I know they're not carnivore, right? But are they
Right.
pretty much like close to your diet, keto?
So when they're at home, yes, we do keto at home. And not to say that we don't allow the chips and different things at times, uh, because they're children who are involved within it with it at school. And there's just some things that we haven't quite yet figured out of how we manage that as their parents, and still them being out in the world that we can't control. But when they are at home, we eat keto meals, and my wife is all but carnivore. She'll have the occasional vegetable here or there, but she's all but carnivore at this point. And she's actually seen crazy results. Even in the last couple weeks, it's with the craziness of the holidays. She knew that she didn't want to go indulge in the desserts, that she wanted to enjoy the the steaks and the lower carb items and enjoy those. And she's been able to drop weight. And so we, instead of making one ribeye, we're making two ribeyes. And people, I do want to stop there, because a lot of people look at the way we eat, of eating ribeyes, and are like, you're insane. You must be some type of banker or hedge fund manager or something to be able to afford that. But that's not the case, because we eat one meal a day, OMAD, and by doing that, we can eat a ribeye. We can eat till we're full, have some, even some bacon with it, and feel great, eat like a king, rather than eating 4 or 5 times a day at fast food and all these different things, and spend much more than I would by just eating one ribeye. Because my costs each day, people might come after me for this, but it's coffee. I do have espresso each day, and ribeye, some butter and bacon. Like, I could probably name on two hands the amount of ingredients that are on my personal grocery bill. And people want to sit there and say, "Well, there's no way I can afford that." And it's like, but I saw you at a restaurant order a soda, and that costs $3 for something that doesn't even fill you up. All it does is raise your blood sugar. And so it's just been one thing that my family, the thought of us buying ribeye is lowering our grocery costs, but it is because our grocery costs are, or our grocery trips are around the outer edge of the grocery store, and we come home rather than walking all throughout and buying all these different snacks because we'd be hungry every hour. Now we're eating whole foods, and we're full and satiated.
That's pretty awesome. Your wife is also thriving, with
Yeah,
carnivore.
yeah,
Yeah, and I can pretty much relate with you on the whole expensive carnivore, with the way people, look at it, because I get asked about like how much is your grocery, this and that. I'm not spending, my money all on ribeyes. There's other things like eggs, also ground
yeah,
beef, just to like cut back on prices. You can mix things up. Yeah, so
right,
there's different ways of doing it. Um,
right.
what does a typical day for you like eating look like? Maybe you can walk me through what you usually eat, maybe during the day. I know you said one meal a day, or do you mix it up during the week? Yeah.
So it is more of a variety there. About 6 months in is when I went to one meal a day, and I have not looked back. I do one meal a day, and when I say don't look back, I have consistently done that. And 5 days a week, most of the time 6 days a week, I eat one meal a day. But on Saturday or Sunday, sometimes it's Saturday and Sunday, just depending on life, I'll have either a snack, a bowl of meat, or something, and still have dinner. But most of those meals, I'd probably say 3 or 4 days out of the week is ribeye, just because who doesn't love a ribeye? And if I'm fasting for that, I want that fatty, good meat. There's times that I'll throw in New York strip. We keep chicken wings in the freezer at all times, just where I can thaw those and throw those in the oven, just salt them up and enjoy those. And we eat bacon. Every single Tuesday is Taco Tuesday, so we have taco bowls where for us it's meat and a little bit of cheddar cheese and maybe a dollop of sour cream. And every single Friday we have Fajita Friday, so we have skirt steak that we throw on the grill and slice it up. If you've never had skirt steak, it is so stinking good. It's a cheaper, I won't say cheap cut of meat, but it's cheaper cut of meat. We still get to enjoy a steak, but it's different variation, and I still feel like I'm getting to enjoy that Mexican food. Uh, but every other day, it's typically uh, sticking to a ribeye, a New York strip, or chicken thighs, making sure that I'm staying to the fatty areas of meat. When I did a season of strictly lion diet at the beginning, where it was you eat ruminant meat, salt and water. But oddly enough, I cannot eat lamb, and it's not because of any alert allergen or anything. It was I raised them as a kid, and there's a specific scent in their oil that I can taste in the meat that it tastes disgusting to me. And so I would have to eat beef or bison, or sometimes goat. Goat's pretty greasy and it's hard to eat. I have to eat it in a very specific way for me to enjoy it. But just finding these fatty meals that I can eat one meal a day. I always say I fast so that I can feast. That's my biggest thing. Is I know that if I don't eat until I'm full, and people who have gone through the keto flu understand, like, you eat until you state sounds disgusting to you, but if you wait another 23 hours, and sometimes I did it for 36 or 48 hours, when you do that, your body wants nothing more than that next egg. And we had incorporated some bread cheese into our diet and enjoying things like that. But I've had to be very careful with that, because I've seen about 20 pounds come back just by eating some cheese. And I talked about indulging in some popcorn here or there. But when you're hitting a stall, cheese will put you there. And so you have to be very careful with your dairy intake. And I don't put butter in that dairy category, because butter never has caused me to stall or fall or even affects me in the dairy category. But yeah, we typically stay around ribeyes and New York strips throughout the week with the bowl of beef. Because if you've never just gotten a bowl of beef and fried that up and put some salt and maybe some butter on there, that really is fantastic. If that's all you're able to afford, I could live on that. But I do like to fast to where I can have that ribeye. But if I only was able to live off of ground beef, I could do it because I enjoy it. And so I say that, but I still crave a ribeye. Does that answer your question on that?
Uh, yes, that's pretty awesome. Um, Jumping into the next question, what is the hardest thing about being carnivore for you? I know, for me, it's social gatherings, right? Like, especially they just passed, that was hard. Travel and also cravings in the beginning that went away after some time. What is the hardest thing for you?
So if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would say social gatherings, because you're showing up and all of these people have prepared food, or even people coming to my house. I'm actually the cook in my family. And I mean, every bit of family that's here for most of the events, I'm handling the cooking. And they'll be like, "Why are you not eating your own food? Are you poisoning us?" When it's, no, I'm eating this way. Or we would go to things and people would be offended. It's crazy to think people are offended if you don't eat their food, but it's just how some people are. Of, hey, why aren't you eating my food? But it's, I'm eating the specific diet. And there's also the other side of things that people are like, "Hey, I cooked you carnivore." I'm like, "Yeah, but it has barbecue sauce on it, so I can't eat that, but thank you." And so there's just a lot of social anxieties that I had to work through of, "Hey, we're going to this person's house and they're not that that carnivore friendly on their menu, or they don't fully understand what I'm doing quite yet. So I'm going to go ahead and eat beforehand. But now I have these group of friends that it's not even forced. They're just fantastic friends of ours that our best friends, anytime we go over there, it's, hey, here's our carnivore menu for tonight. They'll have sides, they'll have different things that they can eat that have carbs, but they make sure that I'm able to come and enjoy it. And they even message me the ingredients or ask me questions. And that's just been a huge thing. So I know you're asking what the hardest thing is, but for me, I would say it's traveling without without the access to things, because you can always take stuff with you and you can enjoy it. But if you're going on an extended travel for work or whatever it may be, you do have to plan for that. And it's hard to just get up and go at times. But I know for me that if I want to go and enjoy that trip, that I need to plan ahead. I need to know what restaurants are around. Most of the time there's a McDonald's, and most people are like, "Well, there's no way you're going to eat at McDonald's and be healthy." But McDonald's actually has relatively affordable quarter pound patties. I actually had one today, oddly enough, and it was 1.99. And do you know what they cook on their grill? Nothing. It's just beef, salt, and a little bit of pepper. That's all they put on it. They don't put any oils. Everyone thinks it must be deep fried and smothered with it being McDonald's or modified in some way, but that's literally all it is. Yes, it was flash frozen beef, but most of the time you're eating flash frozen beef from anywhere, and that doesn't bother me. And so it would have to be traveling and getting out to enjoy it rather than feeling like I am restricted, because if we went to Disney World today, we didn't. I'm not going to Disney World, but if we went to Disney World today, there would probably be 5% of the meals there that I would be able to eat, and so that would take a whole lot more planning. We actually have a cruise planned in March, and so that's going to be a little bit of a struggle for me of making sure I'm staying on, but also gives me a chance to share not just content, but share some stories of, hey guys, I'm going on this cruise. Here's what I was able to eat. Here's what I wasn't able to eat. Here's what you need to watch out for. And so it's finding that rhythm, doing the research. And people will say, well, that's just another thing you're adding, but why are we not researching what we're eating anyways? Why are you just blindly trusting whoever's serving this of what you're putting in your body that you don't know how it's going to affect you? And so I'm just going to be honest. The bigger struggle is having to research most things. But at the same time, at home, I make it the most simple.
Pretty awesome. I look forward to that video. You talk about cruise. So you guys have a cruise plan on March. So
Yeah,
good luck with that. I know the carnivore diet will probably be a challenge. When you go to the buffet line or they have restaurants, because I just went to the cruise
oh yeah.
last year, last August. Yeah, it was a challenge the first 2 to 3 days, because I know you never know how they cook the food, but they have a lot of meat. It's just that I don't know if this one was cooked in seed oil, so I tend to go for the
Exactly.
grilled ones. So
Exactly.
yeah,
And
um,
on those things, I try my best to stay strict of, hey, let me know what seed oils, because I can tell within an hour if I've had seed oils. It hurts my joints. It's crazy how I feel. But if I if I really am in a place where there's no choice, there's times that I will just straight up fast. But there's also times where I am trying to make sure I'm staying on as best as I can. Okay, this steak was possibly seared in a little bit of grapeseed oil. Okay, how much? Are we talking deep fried or just a little bit on the iron or the skillet? And so it's doing my best to make sure I'm staying consistent and not perfect, because there are times that is not going to be perfection, that I am going to stay consistent, that I have to pay for it, that I'd rather just plan ahead. But sorry.
No. I think it actually aligns with the way I was approaching the diet when I was on a cruise, because it's not going to be perfect. So just do it's only 7 days. So
Right.
eat what I think is best for that for the meantime. Jordan, if you had to describe the impact of carnivore in your life, what one word would you describe it and why?
One word. That's hard. I would say new. And if I could expand that, it would be brand new. Because looking back, now that I'm 36, I feel healthier than I ever did in my late teens and early 20s, where you should be able to take on the world with the hormones and testosterone running through your young body. But I was a huge man. I was a miserable man. And now I'm able to find that brand new self. I'm able to live a life that I'm excited about rather than dreading having to go do something, having to sweat. I sweated like no other when I was big. And I was like, okay, am I gonna have to take a shower before I go? Am I gonna stink? But in this new body that I have, it's getting me to do things I never got to experience. I can ride roller coasters. I never gotten to ride a roller coaster without sitting in the fat seat. And for those who have ever been too large for a roller coaster, you know exactly the seat I'm talking about. But I was able to ride roller coasters. I'm able to walk all day and keep up with my kids and wear them out rather than me feeling worn out. And getting to truly enjoy the life that we're meant to do rather than being controlled by the food that we're taking in, which is only meant to make you sicker, which is meant to make you be on more medications, which is meant to make you crave more things, which is meant to make you sicker. And it's just this vicious cycle of making ourselves sicker and sicker. If I could encourage the world to find that brand new self, there would be a lot less need for medical doctors in this world. And that's not to say that we don't need medical doctors. I have a very, very great medical team that I work with, but it's knowing what we're doing, how we're feeling, how we're responding to things to feel brand new rather than just feeling low and awful. And so my word would be new.
That's that's awesome. Jordan, knowing what you know now about carnivore, the nutrition, and what you've been through, if you have a friend like, and he sees that you're having good success with carnivore, managing pretty much everything, your chronic pain, also maybe to be specific, like losing weight and also the sleep apnea. You see somebody falling asleep, maybe they have other health issues. What would you tell them? And yeah, what would you tell them?
So if I was talking to Jordan 3 years ago, my response would be, what do you have to lose? Because right now you have everything to lose. You have this wonderful life, you have your wife, you have your kids, you have all these different things. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to lose it all. So what do you have to lose? Okay, so the only investment is going out and purchasing food that you already probably have in your fridge and your freezer and eating that and throwing out every single thing that you can't name the ingredients or don't fall in line with meat or meat products. So, what do you have to lose? Anyone could do something for 30 days. We all have been trained through schooling, through work, all these different ways in our life to train ourselves to do something, maybe something that seems hard at the time. But with carnivore, it may be hard for a few weeks, but the life you get after is so far greater than anything you give up on carnivore. And so my biggest question for them is, what do you have to lose? Why not give it a try? Even if it's not carnivore, even if it's keto or just eating whole foods, for crying out loud. What's holding you back from doing that? Why can't you do that?
Yeah, that's excellent advice. Um, how do you see carnivore movement in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see carnivore more in the positive light or in a bad light? I guess positive meaning like more people becoming carnivore because a lot of people are healing, a lot of people are, having good health outcomes, and then negative would be a lot of false information, maybe in the media,
That's a good
maybe
way to put it.
censorship, meat prices going high. Yeah.
Mm.
What are your
Yeah, I
thoughts?
mean, I think it will continue to skyrocket because we're in a society where everyone feels sick and everyone feels tired. We're all sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And I feel like people are starting to realize I need to take control. I need to have quit having everyone else tell me what to do. People want to sit here and dog Gen Z and all these next generations coming up saying they're just sissies and they don't know what they're doing. But I feel like they're starting to ask really good questions. And now we get to see that food pyramid just this last week get flipped completely upside down. And there's still some major errors with that, but we're getting to see society change from, hey, just tell me what I need to eat, and saying, hey, I need to know what I need to eat. I need to know what makes me feel good. And so I think it will continue to skyrocket, but that doesn't mean it won't come with tension because we see people propagandizing what it means to truly be healthy of, hey, you need to go to this health food aisle rather than just eating whole foods. My biggest thing is someone please tell me who wants to sit there and argue with me, make it make sense when you're telling me to read this list that's this long rather than three ingredients. How does that make sense? If you cannot define the ingredients that you are telling me to ingest, how does that make sense that you think that this is considered health food? And so I feel like we're jumping into a battle because I know that I'm going to eventually get attacked. Right now, I feel like I've received nothing but encouragement and some praise from people, but I know I'm going to face that pushback because what I'm doing is removing people from the teat of society that pulls them from being living off these medications and living off of their God-given ability in their own bodies rather than living off of a sleep apnea machine and all these different medicines. They're getting to be self-sustainable. And so I know I'm going to face that pushback, but I'm ready to do that because I wish people could just feel the way that I do that I never got to feel 3 years ago. Don't don't throw away the the life change just because someone doesn't think you're smart. People can think that I'm stupid all day long, but I know that this has worked for me. I know that this is real. And I trust me, I don't want to be carnivore. I want to go eat all the chips and salsa that I can. But I know how good I feel, and I want to encourage the rest of the world to do so. Sure, I have a YouTube channel out of this, but my biggest goal in life is to share my story, not to be some name. I don't care if my name's not known. I want people to feel good. Sorry, that was a really
That's
long
awesome,
tangent.
Jordan. You talked about the Gen Z, future generations. What do you think we can do to create a better future for the future generation? Maybe to sustain us all.
change change the grocery stores. The fact that 90% of the grocery store is shelf stable and not I don't have a problem with shelf stable. Let me rephrase that. It has a list of items that you cannot even pronounce or probably need to consume. That's a problem. I'm not saying turn the world to carnivore. I'm saying why are we not eating the whole foods that are there for me rather than the fact that you can go buy a bag of Cheetos cheaper than you can go buy a even if we go off of carnivore and buy a nice salad. That's insane. But like I can go buy a bag of Cheetos cheaper than I can go buy a pound of ground beef. And I'm not saying that we need to change prices, because I'm not jumping into the politics of things. I'm saying we need to change the way that we think about food. Well, I can't afford it. You're right, you can't afford it. You cannot afford to keep living the way that you are. I have to make sacrifices to live the way that I am on carnivore. It's just, do you want to make the sacrifices to feel better? And so I think my biggest thing, and in my line of professional work, I deal with students all the time. And my thing is, I'm helping encourage them in them. I'm not just saying, don't eat that. I actually live that. I live that example. And that's the way we need to do it. We don't need to say, hey, you don't need to do that. But hey, I encourage you not to do that. But also, hey, I'm not doing it either. And show them, be the example for the generation rather than just dogging them. Kids are not stupid. They'll just turn you off if you're not going to help give them the truth. Don't just tell them whatever they want to hear. Give them the truth, but also care for them. If all we're doing is dogging them, they're just going to turn away. Let's encourage them. Let's be there for them, be a resource for them, and show them how our lives will change through this. Sorry, I have a heart for the next generation, if you can't tell.
That's awesome, Jordan. Um, Jordan, if people want to reach out or connect with you, what is the best place to reach you?
So the best place would probably be through YouTube. I have my channel, Go Forth and Carnivore. I do at least a weekly touch point just to share my real life and real journey of the carnivore lifestyle. I've gotten to share from my very beginning stages all the way up to this point, and I'm thankful to get to share that story. Like I said, I don't care if my name is ever known out there even in the carnivore world. I just want people to know that there are others out there willing to do it with you, not for the fame, not for the money, but to show you, hey, we're doing this and we're doing this together. Because if it wasn't for the carnivore community that I was able to reach out on YouTube and different socials, then I wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm thankful for all those personalities and people doing interviews. Joseph, you don't realize the work that you're doing. You're getting to share these real stories of people changing their lives. And these are stories that are continuing to change lives. And so sorry, again on a tangent. You can find me at Go Forth and Carnivore on YouTube.
Excellent, Jordan. I'm going to make sure to post your YouTube channel in the description so people can reach you. Jordan, again, thank you for joining me. I really enjoyed hearing your story and your carnivore experience. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. Thanks for all you do.